Enjoying Life Over the Road, a community that champions adventure, innovation, and well-being.
Welcome to Enjoying Life OTR. My name is Cindy Tunstall, and I'm your host. Today, my guest is Luis Claudio. He's been in trucking several years, and he's got a lot of great things to share. He was real honest about the struggles that he had in the early days, and he's generous to share those stories with us. He also has really big plans for expanding his fleet, and I know you're going to enjoy that part of our conversation. He's got some great ideas about ways we could take better care of our drivers, and it's truly inspiring hearing him talk about the things he has planned. You know, on our show, we are honoring truckers and sharing their stories. And one of the things I loved about Lewis's story is he and his family are adopting a 14-year-old girl. You know, he shares about that process, and I'm really looking forward to giving her a better opportunity and letting her be a part of their family. So super great. Anyway, I love that part of the conversation. We talked about that briefly at the end of the show, and I know you're going to enjoy that part of his story. So it's pretty incredible. Well, let's get to it. Welcome to the show, Luis.
Hey, thank you for having me. This is cool.
Well, I'm excited to share your story. Tell us a little bit about your background and how long have you been driving and what kind of rig are you driving now?
I've been driving for a little over 15 years. I've only been driving with my Class A for about 4 now. I drove pretty much anything falls under a Class B license up until that point that I got my Class A. I've driven mixer trucks, I've driven straight trucks, dump trucks, pretty much anything on wheels I've driven. But I got my Class A about 4 years ago. Was a company guy for a couple years, and in 19 we started the business, and I went independent with my authority and an owner up. As far as my rig goes, I've got an international ProStar with a Cummins ISX motor. That motor has been awesome. Blessing and a curse, I call it. It's been the workhorse. But we've got a lot of money wrapped up in that setup, in that motor. We've had it in-framed already, and probably have a little over north of 50,000 just under the hood. So we've got it where we want it. It's a beautiful truck. I doubt I would ever get rid of it or sell it, or I'll keep it in the fleet till it gives up the ghost. But yeah.
Well, that sounds great. Now, you say we. So do you have a business partner or you have somebody that's team driving with you?
Well, it's funny. I'm so programmed to use we. My wife is the silent head financial lead investor, is how I like to title it. The business took a big hit early on, and it almost wiped us out twice. And the second time, she invested some money that helped us, save the business, and we've been able to come out of debt from it. But yeah, when I say we, she's definitely, although she's not a part ownership at all, she's definitely, a huge supporter, helper, investor, you name it.
Awesome. I love that. So are you self-dispatching your own loads, or how do you get freight?
Yeah, I started it completely independent. So as soon as I activated my authority, I ran power only for about 6 to 8 months. Then I bought a dry van, a 53-foot dry van, and I've been running dry van freight ever since. I do 100% of it myself. I dispatch loads. I've got customer relationships. I've got everything set up now to grow. So that's good.
And what's your home base? Where are you from?
Fort Wayne, Indiana. Well, we're established out of Roanoke, which is just 10 minutes outside of Fort Wayne, Indiana. But Roanoke, Indiana is our location.
Awesome. I was just in Indianapolis. It's the first time I had been to that, Indiana, and I really loved it. I think it's a beautiful country up there, so it was very much nice to visit passing through.
Yeah, ironically, about Fort Wayne's small, surprisingly, a lot of people, unless they live there, don't know this about Fort Wayne, Indiana. But it's actually the most centralized location for all inbound and outbound freight in all of the United States. And all of the pipeline that runs to the United States runs through Indiana and goes out, literally. It's the hub, the central hub.
Yeah, I really loved being there. I was like, there was a lot of great opportunities coming in and out, and I'm like, okay, I will definitely be back here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I self-dispatch, so I'm always paying attention to the market, and so it's all
yes,
good.
Heard that.
Well, tell me a little bit about your story. My show is called Enjoying Life OTR, so I always like to hear about ways that you are enjoying life over the road. Are there any special things that have happened as this opportunity to travel, or some fun adventures that you've been able to do while you're out?
Oh, absolutely. We get to cross states that we would never cross in our entire lives until we hop in a truck and get paid to do it. I've always said I didn't want to get into trucking. When I got into it, it was the only thing paying what someone who had a degree was paying. And me without a degree, a little formal education, it was a no-brainer as a provider of the family to figure out the next thing. And that was the next thing. And I've never been able to get away from it. if that makes sense. So before I got into trucking, my background was in business management, and that was my background. This opportunity, I took it at the time where I was currently living in that city, and I never got out of trucking completely. I just slowly learned how can I make more money. And the more I learned what that meant, I started looking into an owner-op, company guy, then an owner-op. And now being independent, that's what's led me into it. So driving, it's definitely awesome. It's the best office, I always say, because you can go anywhere your heart desires and provide a really good living for your family. Really good living. I mean, 6 figures is just almost an entry-level earnings position for trucking anymore. But you get to just see whatever you please. And, I've had a lot of really cool experiences, especially down south. Tennessee area, there's really cool areas down there where, you can hit some watering holes. And if I stumble upon one, I'm like a little kid. I got to go see it, And I've been able to find some really cool natural springs down there where I just spent, I had to do a 34 down there. So I spent a Sunday just outside of Jasper, Tennessee. And I literally spent an entire Sunday, climbing through these water holes. And it was awesome. It's just natural nature. It's just such a cool thing. Things you would never ever see, if you work a 9-to-5 job working in an office, but trucking lets you see the world if you want to. So
I love that. I'm the same way about the water. I grew up on the coast, so I've always been on the ocean, and then now I'm in Dallas, so I'm landlocked. But so whenever I see water, I'm the same way. I can't wait to go down there and I strap my boots on and go as soon as I can get down toward the water. I love being out there. So great. And I agree. I love it so much that there's just things that I would never have been able to do. I mean, even if I'm driving and making a trip across country and I'm on a road trip, it's like even in those times you're kind of still on the schedule. And if you're working a 9-to-5, then you have in the back of your head, you have it, do I want to stop and spend time here? Because I've got, you're still on a schedule when your vacation ends or your time ends. So it limits you a little bit. So I'm like you. I love the opportunity to just get out of the truck and go exploring. Hey, just wanted to jump on here and remind you that I've created an app. It's called ENJOYING Life OTR. It's a social network that's designed just for truckers. It's a place where we can share our favorite stops. Anyway, hop on there, share some of your favorite places to stop. I'm hoping to have something from every state in the nation, so hop on there, see what you think. I can't wait to connect with you there. ENJOYING Life OTR. So what are some other fun things that you've been able to do as a result of traveling in the truck?
Well, so before, what's funny is when I started into trucking was kind of the beginning of COVID. That's when I started the business, and that's why we even went into business, was because we were laid off like everyone else. But I got to, when I started running my lanes, I was running military lanes, and I was going to a lot of ports and military bases. And I'm going to be honest with you, that is the awesomest, coolest experience. I was actually delivering what they call MREs, which are, meals ready to eat for the Army men and women, and pulling up to the base, just seeing how our military men and women train that makes you feel like a true, as I call it, hairy-legged American, trucking for America. It's really cool to see that and experience that because, you see our young generation being trained to serve, and it's humbling. It's really humbling.
Yeah, I feel the same way. My dad was in the Navy, so I grew up on military bases, but I have such a great appreciation. But even for me, having grown up in that environment, lived on base, and I still, when I go in there and I see all those young kids, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so great. It's like so great. Anyway, it's just a whole different world. I still, when I drive on and, they inspect my truck to get me in and out of there, and I drive on, and it's still, even this many years having been familiar, because it's just a whole community there. Everything they need is right there on base. They can live and sustain themselves on base, and their shopping and food and just everything. And then also training over there. There's a whole big, it's incredible to see.
Yeah, some of these bases, like Fort Jackson, they're so big. I got lost inside of it.
Yeah, me too.
Once I was in the base, I'm not making this up. And you're like, well, you got lost. Yeah, that's how massive some of these military bases are. I got lost. It took me an hour to get to my dock once I got access to the base.
Yeah, that's crazy. I totally understand. I've done that. I'm going, I feel like I'm going in circles. I don't know how to get out of here.
It's unreal. It's really wild. And, it's interesting what you find when you're lost, as I say. You never know what you're looking for or what you find along the way of what you're looking for, right? And I think opportunity is always going to present itself that way, too. We never know an opportunity is waiting for us if we don't take the first one. right? We may not like it. It may not be comfortable. It may be uncomfortable, but you never know. If you don't take that first opportunity, you're going to miss the opportunity that you're actually supposed to meet by turning that one down. And I always kind of like to share that with friends or anyone that's wanting to get in the business. Get your foot in the door, get experienced, run for a year, run for 2 years, reevaluate and see if that's still what you want to do. Not everybody wants to be an owner, and that's okay. But there are people who want to chase bigger dreams and want freedom for themselves. And, that opportunity is always going to be there.
I really love what you're sharing because I love truckers, and I just think I want to share your stories. And whenever I meet somebody, I'm at a truck stop or I'm sitting somewhere in a diner and sitting next to a trucker, and I love to hear their stories. But one of the things that I love about them is that they're when I meet somebody like you that really just loves that opportunity to explore and adventure. And not everybody is like that. I've had people do ride-alongs in my truck, and they are just solely focused on the task of getting where we're going and
right.
really not looking out beyond what's in front of them. And I just recognize that so much as just an adventurous spirit that I really love. And not everybody, even truck drivers, not all of them have that. I was recently talking with somebody and I said, well, how are you liking being over the road? And he's like, I hate it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's okay. I just told him, well, you're young. It's good that you discovered that now and you can go do something else that you love and enjoy, because it's definitely not for everybody. But the people that really enjoy the work and getting to be outside and the freedom to explore, I think those are the most happy truck drivers.
What's sad about those that do respond and say, I hate it, how do you like being over the road? They say, I hate it. What's a common denominator with those type of people, is the companies that they're with, they just seem to be doing a poor job at employee retention, right? So they're giving those types of drivers every reason to leave, but not every reason to stay. So it really boils down to how is that team managing that company, right? Because if you don't invest in your people and, help them and give them and train them reasons to stay or grow, they're going to hate what they do. And they're going to have a huge, turnover rate, which is really common in this industry.
There's a couple things that you shared there that I really love. I think it's a word to fleet owners that are trying to, keep their drivers. I think they need to pay attention to that. But the other part of that is that sometimes the company that you're with is just not a good fit for you. Like I talk to some drivers and they go, I loved being with this company, and they name this big, huge carrier. And then right after that, somebody will say how much they hated it. And you just really have to find the one that works for you. And I think the other problem too for drivers that are hating it is, like you said, the money is so big. So it's hard to walk away from that money. But I'm just like, for those drivers that are hating it, find another company that will be a little bit more accommodating to what your needs are, whether you're needing more time at home or there's just certain parts of the country that you don't want to travel, or really look at what it is that you're not liking about the job, and then, try to find solutions, because the money is great, but life is way too short to be miserable doing the work.
Yeah, I feel like over the years there's been this slow transition, over the last 10, 15 years. There was a big divide between company and drivers, just a huge divide. And we've been working with people to try and bridge the gap and bridge that relationship between, corporate and driver, right? Because if that's not streamlined, you're going to have a massive turnover rate. If you don't have a model in place that's going to help create a culture in your environment with your people that's going to want them to come to work, right? That's going to want them to, enjoy coming and working for you, you're going to keep having a turnover.
So tell me more about that work. Are you doing consultations with other fleet owners, or tell me about that?
Well, I have a couple partners that we're in works with stuff, growing dedicated trucking, our business, and creating platforms for that. But consultation is another avenue that we're entertaining, yes, that I am, in terms of how to help do that. With my background in business, it's helped a lot on how to bridge that gap between company and drivers. And another partner that I have, he's been in logistics for well over 15 years, great partner over there. And so he's got a lot of awesome insight on it. But we are working on a consultation, avenue for me to get something set up to where I can help, educate people a little bit on how to bridge that gap.
But even as I love that you're doing that. So great, so good for drivers, and so good for the industry. And I think social media is, on one hand, I think it's helping, and on the other hand, I think it's adding fuel to the fire. So it can be beneficial, but there's lots of ways that fleet owners can work smarter, and just little small tweaks that they could do to improve the relationship with their carriers, even training their dispatchers in a way that, how to talk to their drivers in a way that show empathy and truly listening to what their needs are and where they'd like to go and where they'd like to be running. Because, they could be just a short distance off of where their happy place, and the company never really asks or, never looks into that. So they're just small. It's like wasted money, It's like you're not taking time just to have those conversations with your drivers, and it's costing you thousands and thousands of dollars in driver turnover.
Right.
So love that.
Right, and you would be surprised at how simple, for management, a actual conversation, hand-to-hand conversation with the driver does for that driver. It may not be what you give him. It simply could be 20 minutes of your time to just hear him out. That will speak volumes to most of your drivers. And you'd be surprised at what you can retain just out of that. See, you don't know what you don't create, right? So if you don't create the opportunity to help, it will never create itself.
Well, even in how often they check in with the driver, that is such a small question. Like, I prefer if you call me and check in with me at 9 a.m. and again at 7 p.m., but don't call me between. I'll update you if there's a delay. Like, just to have what your preference are, or just to find out when I'm going to be down for the night, and do not call or text me while I'm trying to sleep. So it's like, just like little small things, and like, and they infuriate drivers. Understandably,
right.
But it's like, come on, people. Ask the question.
And our drivers, they're our number one asset in this industry. So you would assume big companies would just promote the crap out of that, right? Because it's true. If the driver's not in the truck, they're trying to go to automated now.
Yeah.
I'm going to start it on that. But anyways, so just that line of communication is everything. Something simple. It's not always, hey, let me up your pay to fix this. It's people, we're humans at the end of the day. We have issues, we have problems, and not that you're going to sit there and fix them, but having a conversation and being aware of what's going on with your drivers, that'll go so far.
Yeah, it's so awesome. So how has the transition been from you being, I guess you were doing local and regional work before, and then transitioning to over the road? How was that?
Boy, that is a loaded question. Starting out, it was very hard, right? Because when I started, to start the business, we went in quite a bit of debt overnight. I'll be honest with you, I maxed out 3 credit cards and had a truck. It almost cost me the business, my first truck. And we just kept pushing forward. My wife and I chose to just, we were all in when we started the business and decided that we were going to make this work regardless. Now, we didn't know what that meant down the road, right? Because we didn't know we were going to have to in-frame an engine. We didn't know we were going to have to, invest in all these heavy repairs. But I started out running aggressive, and I mean very aggressive, because I was trying to fix some of the debt. So I was out 5 days a week for a full calendar year. And I was home every weekend. Some of those weekends, I pushed it out another day, right? I was literally just home for 34 hours.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
And we had 2 boys, right? My wife and I have 2 children, and we're adopting our 3rd.
And how old are the kids when all that was happening?
They were young. They were 1 and 2.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
we started
challenging.
business when they were 1 and 2. Yeah, it was very gnarly, to say the least, and we always look back and say, man, we can't believe how we did it. But in all honesty, supporting each other is the only reason we made it through it. So I ran really hard that year. And the second year, I kind of kept the same schedule, but I backed off a little bit because we were in a much better place. So I did 3 nights. I've been pretty consistent being out 3 to 4 nights max, and then home the rest.
Oh, nice. Well, you're in a good area, so you have a lot of freight out of that region.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of opportunity. It's a great place to be based. So I love that.
If I didn't have a family, I would never have to come home. And that's the honest truth.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't. You could make $500,000 a year in a truck if it was your home.
Yes. Okay, so talk to, there's drivers out there and, maybe just getting into the industry and are having similar struggles, balancing work life. You said you made it through that first year when you were driving hard, and you guys obviously, made it through that transition. What are some things that you learned during that you wish you knew when you started that would have been helpful for, maybe a new driver to hear that's struggling with that home life balance?
Well, I guess financially starting out, the only thing I always look back and say I wish I could have done different was I wish I would have had more cash saved in the bank when I started the business. In reality, if you can have 25 to 50,000 in cash sitting there when you start, you're going to be set up to succeed really fast. If you have less than 10, you will burn through that fast. That's just the reality of it. Between fuel and and expenses, that probably would be the only thing. My nature, I'm the type of natured person who, when it's something I want and I go to pursue it, there's nothing going to stop me. Correct? I'll figure it out along the way. I won't have it all figured out at first, but adapting and adjusting to what happens is definitely beneficial. But I would recommend, if you're able to have a cash pile of money, in, anywhere from the 20 to 35 grand range, that's just going to help you.
Yeah, so good. What else would you like to share about your life on the road? Anything that's making life easier in the truck, or things that you've picked up along the way that are making life more enjoyable while you're out?
Yeah, so a couple things. A toaster oven is lovely. So in my rig, essentially, it's just a camper on wheels, and I've just got everything set up for the way I like it. That's what's nice about being over the road is you can set your rig up to how you like it. Between my bed and my laptop and my fridge and microwave. And, I like to pack my food when we're on the road. A couple of reasons. It saves me a lot of money, but also it allows me to eat better, which is always a struggle in that reality, right?
Are you cooking at home when you have downtime and then just heating stuff up on the road, or are you actually cooking in the rig?
No. I don't do any cooking on the road. Time is precious for us all, especially the way I run. I run pretty hard when I'm out, but we cook at home, and I pack it all in my fridge, and everything's set to where my snacks are set, my meals are set, and I just reach out back, grab me a meal, warm it up, my dinner, and same thing. I'll treat myself once a week, in all honesty, because I'm human. Yeah. I love fried chicken, so if I can ever find a spot where I've got fried chicken, I'm gonna get me some fried chicken. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for the most part, I'm pretty healthy. I'm pretty regimented with my meals.
Good. Has it been a challenge to stay healthy when you're driving?
It's always a challenge to stay healthy because I exercise when I'm on the road doing just body weight movements. I have a couple push-up blocks in my truck, and I do push-ups with those when I'm stopped at strippers. I try to utilize my downtime as best as I can to get moving. And you don't have to do a bunch of stuff. Just walking will save your life, so many years off your life when you're down, which doesn't require nothing but you to get out of the truck and start walking, right? So walking, doing some form of exercise helps me keep my psyche, my health,
Awesome. I love that. Just little things. There's so many. It's hard to stay in the habit of doing it. I mean, it's a challenge for me as well. So I like to hear that encouragement.
Yeah.
Well, would you mind if I revisit your family? You said that you're adopting another child. Could we talk about that? Or?
Yes, absolutely. We are adopting our daughter from Colombia.
Oh, wow.
She just turned 14 in January.
Wow.
She's been in that same orphanage since she was 7 years old. So she's ready to get out. We're ready to get her. International adoption is a ton of paperwork. It's a mountain of paperwork. And it's a process.
How long has the process been? How long have you been working on this?
Since December of last year. Yeah, so we're about 65 to 70% of the way along. And if you want, which is really cool because we're raising proceeds for the adoption. It's a costly venture, but I have a link where I've had a lot of colleagues and friends, share and donate. It's been really cool. I can send a link to you if you want.
Yeah, please do.
You guys, if you could share it.
Yeah, I'll have that in the show notes. So if people want to contribute, I just so admire that you're doing that. Okay, well, how did you find her? Like, give me a heads up. Like, how would you if somebody that was interested in doing something like that, how did you find her?
Well, this was my wife's burden, in all honesty. She's a nurse. And before we married, she would do medical trips to countries like South Africa, Madagascar. And, they would take a team of nurses and doctors, and they would treat as many people in that village that they could in a 3 to 4 week time frame. So that's where she got her passion for orphans and whatnot. So over time, we had 2 kids, and I was content with our 2 kids. And she looked at me one day and said, "Hey, what do you think about adopting?" I said, "I don't know. I've never given it much thought." And I said, "What about you?" And she's very passionate about it. And I said, "Okay." I had to pay attention to that, right? So
it's a good husband picking up on the cues.
I said, okay. Well, I could tell she wasn't going to let up. And I said, "All right, babe. Well, if it works out, let's just try it. If it works out, it works out. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. I don't think we should really add that kind of stress to it if it's that, that important. And so we did. We just kind of let it happen organically, and God just started blessing the opportunity left and right, made it really apparent that he wants us to move forward with this. So he started opening doors, and we just moved forward with him. We got to meet her and spent some time with her. And it was at that moment I knew that, hey, that's my girl. It went from like a cool idea to like the switch happened very fast for me personally. Like I met her, and I knew right then and there. I said, okay, I got to go because I got to get my girl. So
and was your wife feeling the same way at the same time frame, or were y'all on different? Was that happening at different times for both of you, or she was still thinking about it, or?
No, it was identical. It was same time. Everything
so great.
Timing was exact. It was all very exact feelings, emotions.
So great. Well, Luis, would you mind telling us a little bit about her story? Because I'd be interested to hear why she ended up in that orphanage, if you don't mind. Would that be okay if you shared some of her story with our audience?
Yeah, sure. Yep, that'd be fine. Yeah, so when she was, up until the age of 7, she really grew up in a very broken home. Her parents were alcoholics and were very involved in drugs, and she had a very unsettled home as a child. And, the mom was badly involved in drugs, and she ended up in an orphanage.
Okay, say that again, Luis. I lost you. Our connection went out for just a minute. So what happened a few years ago? You said she had other siblings?
Yeah, her other 2 siblings were adopted out about 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And
okay.
so she was left there. She's been there ever since. And so the last 7 years she's lived there.
I mean, that's another hard change, being away from your siblings.
It is. It is.
Oh.
The story alone will make you want to adopt every kid you run into. So with her, we met her, and it was pretty fast knowing that, we want to move forward with this.
And what are her feelings about moving to the U.S.? Or is she excited about that? Or how is she feeling about that? Her siblings are obviously going to be still back home. So how is she feeling about that?
She's really excited just at the fact that we're going to adopt her. We've learned every child that comes from that background only wants one thing. They don't want items. They don't want things. They just want a family.
Wow.
So yeah, it's pretty sobering, once you meet them and realize what these kids want, and then try to help how you can when you can.
And her siblings are older or younger?
They are younger than her.
Oh wow. Well, you'll be able to stay in touch with them, obviously, so that's good. And I don't have words to express how impressed I am that you are doing this. It's so incredible.
We're just, like I said, we're just grateful. Again, we didn't expect to adopt, but I tell you, the moment, if you ever meet these kids face to face, that changes overnight.
So where are you at in the process now? How much longer do you think it will be? Are you waiting on funding or what?
A little bit of both, yeah. So we're still working on raising proceeds. We're about a quarter of the way, almost halfway there. As long as we get all the proceeds raised, we should have her by the end of the year. It's such a cool story, and a lot of awesome people have given and share her story, know of her story. So the more we can share, the awesome it's going to be for her.
If somebody's listening to this story and that you're starting to stir some curiosity about adopting, what direction could you point them to start getting some information? Do you have any tips or things you could share with somebody that might be getting interested based on this conversation?
So there's a couple of types of adoption. You can adopt, you can adopt to foster, or you can actually adopt. So there's a couple different ways. The link I'll send you will have a lot of information about that.
Okay, that sounds great. Okay, thanks so much. Well, anything else that you would like to share about your journey before we wrap up? Anything that you've, fun things that you've been able to do, or some things that you'd like to share with our audience before we close up the show?
Yeah, if you're ever interested in getting into trucking, by all means, you can get a hold of me on LinkedIn. Like I said, our next step is to grow, and I want to employ people that are teachable, because we're definitely going to teach you. I think that's one of the biggest divides in the industry is we're not properly teaching the next generation to take over and fulfill our seats in this industry. And, we're products of our environment. So if we don't teach, what you don't teach, you're going to replicate. If you find a company that's going to help you actually and teach you and show you and invest in you and not just treat you as another driver. That's definitely our goal here at Dedicated Trucking. So if you want to reach out to me on LinkedIn or whatnot, we'll love to keep in contact with you.
Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. I'm just honored to share your story. I love that you're doing with the adoption, and I love all that you're doing to invest in the trucking industry as a whole. And you just have so much to offer. So thanks so much for taking the time. It was really an honor to meet you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate you giving us a voice on this platform.
Check out our app, Enjoying Life OTR. It's a social network designed just for truckers. Look forward to connecting with you there. Well, y'all be safe out there, and by all means, enjoy the journey.